很可能是一件至强至宝。
危机越大，宝藏也越大。
The gigantic black vessel continued rising from the endless black swamp, and as it ascended, the entire swamp shook violently. The scene alone revealed how terrifying this object truly was. Compared to the Boat of Mausoleum, Luo Feng and every universe master nearby looked insignificant in both size and presence. The black swamp itself was already a deadly place. Without powerful true treasures for protection, any universe master who fell into it would almost certainly die. Even full-powered attacks couldn't disturb the swamp. Yet this ancient vessel effortlessly pushed away enormous amounts of the black mud as it emerged. This immediately raised one question in Luo Feng's mind. How do you actually seize a treasure like this? Although countless legends surrounded the Boat of Mausoleum, humanity had never obtained one before. Among all the major forces in the universe ocean, only the two holy lands were believed to possess real knowledge about it. That meant almost everyone present was facing an unknown challenge. Luo Feng first considered the most common method used for treasures, branding it with life imprints, but he quickly rejected the idea. If that method worked, experts like Deer Bug Master, Shadow Dust Master, and Sorcerer Sprite Master would have already tried it instead of waiting calmly. Realizing Deer Bug Master probably knew much more, Luo Feng secretly contacted him through voice transmission so the others wouldn't hear. He honestly admitted that although he had heard many legends, he knew almost nothing about the Boat of Mausoleum itself, and asked whether Deer Bug Master was willing to share what he knew. Instead of answering immediately, Deer Bug Master laughed and asked why he should reveal such valuable information. Luo Feng calmly replied that if Deer Bug Master refused, he would simply follow Deer Bug Master, Shadow Dust Master, and Sorcerer Sprite Master wherever they went. Sooner or later, he would discover the method anyway. That answer caught Deer Bug Master's attention. He finally agreed, but only on one condition. Since no additional experts from Purple Moon Holy Land could reach the Flame Ice region in time, he feared becoming the target of every other faction. He wanted Luo Feng to cooperate with him until the treasure appeared completely. Luo Feng accepted immediately, but he made one thing perfectly clear. Before everyone else, he would cooperate. Once the treasure itself became the objective, everyone would compete based on their own abilities. The two quickly reached an agreement. This decision also demonstrated Luo Feng's practical thinking. He wasn't blindly trusting Deer Bug Master. Instead, he was exchanging temporary cooperation for priceless information while leaving room to compete once the real opportunity arrived. The chapter then explains why Deer Bug Master remained cautious despite possessing a supreme true treasure. His treasure was defensive armor. While it greatly increased survivability, it didn't automatically allow him to defeat or kill equally powerful opponents. Against other top-tier universe masters, defense alone wasn't enough. By comparison, experts like Clear Eye Master possessed terrifying soul attacks, capable of instantly overwhelming an opponent's consciousness. That type of absolute restraint was often far more dangerous than simple defensive strength. Even though Deer Bug Master could unleash power approaching that of a universe, Supreme Master within the primal universe, eliminating another powerful expert like Luo Feng would still be extraordinarily difficult. After Luo Feng fulfilled his promise, Deer Bug Master finally began revealing the truth behind the Boat of Mausoleum. He explained that countless eras ago, the Boat of Mausoleum wasn't originally a treasure at all. It was a working tool created by an incredibly advanced ancient civilization that once controlled the universe boat. This is an important piece of world building because it reveals something fascinating about the ancient civilization. Many of the greatest objects found throughout the universe boat, including the famous black-striped stone pillars and numerous supreme true treasures, originated from this civilization. Even today, none of the strongest beings in the universe ocean could move or damage these creations. According to Deer Bug Master, objects such as the Boat of Mausoleum couldn't recognize masters through ordinary life imprints because they weren't designed like traditional treasures. Instead, they functioned more like sophisticated ancient equipment. He further explained that hiding inside the Boat of Mausoleum provided tremendous protection. Physical attacks were greatly weakened, soul attacks were naturally blocked, and even virtual godly powers couldn't penetrate its unique material. However, unlike palace-type true treasures, It couldn't completely eliminate the force of incoming attacks. Some impact would still reach those inside. Most importantly, if someone wished to control the Boat of Mausoleum, there was only one method. They had to enter it and locate its core control. When Luo Feng asked about this core, Deer Bug Master admitted that every Boat of Mausoleum possessed a different control system, and even he didn't know the details. Luo Feng suspected Deer Bug Master was hiding some information, but he also understood why. Knowledge like this could determine who ultimately obtained one of the greatest opportunities in the universe ocean. Deer Bug Master then revealed another critical rule. No one could force open the Boat of Mausoleum. Everyone simply had to wait until it chose to open its own doors. Normally that happened shortly after it completely emerged, although there had once been an exception. Historical records described a Boat of Mausoleum whose doors remained shut for more than 300 eras until a supreme expert, skilled in refining true treasures finally, used a secret technique to activate it. This led Luo Feng to another important discovery. Experts capable of refining true treasures weren't simply craftsmen. Their deep understanding of ancient civilizations allowed them to uncover secrets hidden inside treasures that ordinary experts could never comprehend. Finally, Deer Bug Master revealed perhaps the biggest limitation of all. Each Boat of Mausoleum could carry only 36 great beings into the mysterious tomb. Even more importantly, once it entered the tomb, the boat itself would leave and could no longer be controlled. In other words, obtaining the boat wasn't the final reward. It was merely a one-time ticket into an even greater opportunity. As the conversation ended, the Boat of Mausoleum continued emerging from the black swamp until another palace-type true treasure arrived carrying experts from the first Ancestral God School. The story reminds us that, although the Ancestral God School exists in every reincarnation era, its influence changes dramatically after the destruction of the primal universe. Without the universe's direct protection, its members become weaker and far less unified than before. Soon another powerful expert from the Skeleton Clan arrived. Without hesitation, he rushed toward the Boat of Mausoleum and attempted to claim it using life imprints. Everyone watched the attempt fail completely. The Divine Eye Clan immediately mocked the Skeleton Clan for doing something so obviously useless. The Skeleton Clan fired back, arguing that no opportunity should ever be ignored. Even if previous boats couldn't recognize a master, this one might be different. Besides, they suspected, the Divine Eye Clan had secretly attempted exactly the same thing earlier. The exchange quickly turned into another verbal clash between two ancient, rival clans whose hatred had lasted through nearly 3 reincarnation eras. Neither side backed down. While they argued, every other faction wisely remained silent and continued observing the situation. Another half-month passed. No additional forces arrived, leaving only 5 major groups surrounding the Boat of Mausoleum: the Divine Eye Clan, Skeleton Clan, the First Ancestral God School, Purple Moon Holy Land, and Luo Feng representing humanity. No one knew exactly how many experts each faction had hidden inside their palace true treasures, making the coming competition even more unpredictable. Finally, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The Boat of Mausoleum completely emerged from the black swamp, floating freely in space. Then the enormous cabin doors began to vibrate. "They're opening!" The instant Deer Bug Master saw the movement, he immediately ordered Luo Feng to follow him. Without wasting even a second, Deer Bug Master's pyramid and Luo Feng's Crimson Tower shot forward toward the ancient vessel. The other factions reacted just as quickly. Realizing Deer Bug Master possessed the greatest knowledge about the Boat of Mausoleum, every palace true treasure instantly accelerated to 100 times, the speed of light racing after him. All 5 entities, Luo Feng, Deer Bug Master, Divine Eye Clan, Skeleton Clan, and Ancestral God School transformed into 5 streams of light and flew across the void toward the Boat of Mausoleum. The ancient boat floating above the black morass was beginning to vibrate and tremble, and then a door appeared on its outer wall. As the door rose slowly, the passageway behind it became larger and visible, and it was clear that opportunity had finally opened. The 5 streams of light adjusted their flight route and charged in a straight line toward that passageway. But the race immediately turned into a battle of judgment. The others understood a simple truth that governs every competition for a treasure. The greatest danger is not the weakest competitor, but the strongest and the most knowledgeable one. For that reason, their attacks did not go toward Luo Feng, but converged entirely on Deerbug Master. Voices rang out in the void. One said his power was the strongest and he was the most familiar with the Boat of Mausoleum, so he should be the last to enter. Another said he already possessed a supreme true treasure, so why should he vie for another one? In that moment, hazy golden shadows swept toward Deerbug Master without restraint, gathering into a large primitive machete in midair. At the same time, countless butterflies of various colors flew all over the void and charged toward him in a frenzy, while a white whirlwind joined the assault. Even two archenemies, the Skeleton Clan and the Divine Eye Clan, set aside their hatred to attack Deerbug Master together. This concerted action reveals how even enemies can become temporary allies when facing a common threat that is too powerful to face alone. Luo Feng, by contrast, was completely ignored. And being ignored in such a situation was itself a form of advantage. Under the combined bombardment of the void machete, the drunken butterflies and the white whirlwind, the golden pagoda that Deerbug Master was flying in disappeared. What appeared in its place was his true reliance. A beast emerged in midair, covered all over with black scales, its entire body looking as though every inch of it was a weapon. On every joint of its several hundred pairs of sharp claws was a sharp barb, and its tail resembled a scorpion's tail divided into nearly 1,000 nodes, each bearing a strange cyan color. The only part that looked normal was its head, which resembled a deer-like beast. This was the form that gave him his name. Deerbug Master was able to transform into this formidable beast with the help of his supreme true treasure, and after obtaining it, he renamed himself after the beast itself. It shows how deeply a treasure can define its owner. The beast pranced in the void, and it's gentle-looking. Head let out roars that caused the void to tremble with visible ripples, spreading in all directions. The power of those roars shattered the machete, the butterflies, and the whirlwind, annihilating them completely. At this moment, he transmitted to Luo Feng, saying, "Milky Way, follow me." Luo Feng's heart lurched at the power he witnessed, but he did not reduce his speed in the slightest and answered, "Sure." From behind, voices continued trying to manipulate the situation. Some shouted that Deerbug had gone mad and had already started using his supreme true treasure. Others transmitted to Luo Feng, asking why he was not helping to stop Deerbug Master, warning him that if Deerbug got in first, they would have no chance at seizing the treasure. The tactic was to use fear to recruit an ally. Luo Feng saw through it and ignored their pleas, replying that they were full of crap and telling them to attack him if they had the guts. The other three groups then stopped paying attention to him, because dealing with him would only distract them from their real obstacle. With Deerbug Master's speed, noticeably slowed by the successive heavy blows from the Divine Eye Clan, the First Ancestral God School, and the Skeletal Clan, a stream of crimson light following closely behind instantly bypassed him. It was Luo Feng. This demonstrates what happens when all attention is fixed on the strongest. The one who is not seen as a threat is free to move ahead. The others comforted themselves by saying not to worry about Milky Way, because he had no inkling about the internal layout of the Boat of Mausoleum. They believed that as long as they stopped Deerbug Master, everything would be fine. That belief was their mistake, because knowledge of the interior would prove more decisive than speed. Deerbug did not ask Luo Feng for help. He broke through the attacks one after another and charged toward the entrance. The crimson light dashed through the entrance in an instant, followed closely by Deerbug Master under restrictions, and then by the Divine Eye Clan, the Skeleton Clan, and the First Ancestral God School, who all dashed through at the same time. Inside, the environment seemed safe. The great beings exited their pinnacle palace true treasures. For anyone who could make it through, the Flame Ice region would at least possess one. Luo Feng had charged down the passageway after passing the gate and arrived at an immeasurably large public square or great hall, easily 100 million kilometers in diameter, entirely empty with an incomparably smooth surface. At the border of the square were numerous passageways leading in different directions. He was confused and at a loss for which direction to choose, because a wrong choice would mean wasted time, and any wasted time could mean losing the core. control to another great being and failing to get it to recognize its master. At that moment, Deer Bug Master transmitted again. Milky Way, follow me, and flew far into the distance. Luo Feng's eyes lit up and he followed closely. Behind them, Shadow Dust Master and Sorcerer. Sprite Master from the Divine Eye Clan, Liu Jiu Master from the First Ancestral God School, and Jittery Sea Master from the Skeleton Clan gave chase almost as a conditioned response, their eyes fixed on Deerbug because he knew which way to go. In an instant, the four from behind executed soul attacks, long-range attacks, and domain attacks. Deerbug was using Luo Feng to absorb some of the impact, while Luo Feng was also thinking clearly about his own position. He realized he was the weakest compared to the three groups of powers. Even if he managed to stall Deerbug Master, he would never win against the other three alone when fighting for the treasure. But if he followed Deerbug would attract most of the attention, and he might be able to gain from Deerbug's misfortune. It was a calculation of survival, where the weakest survives by staying close to the strongest. Flying along the internal passageway, 6 figures advancing at high speed, Deerbug suddenly charged forward and rammed one of the horns on his head into the side of the walls of the revolving corridor. The patterns on the wall caved in with a rumble, and a gigantic gate suddenly fell from the top with a loud crash. The 4 figures who charged out in succession saw the gate and flared up instantly, beginning to blame each other. One said Jittery Sea Master was an idiot for getting distracted and attacking. Milky Way, arguing that Milky Way knew nothing and that the crucial secrets would never be told to him by Deerbug. So blocking Deerbug was the only thing that mattered, even if Milky Way wandered inside. Another cursed back that they only dared to say such things after everything had happened. A third tried to calm them, saying there were many passageways within the boat, and they should hurry to find another one before Deerbug shut more of them. This quarrel itself shows the cost of poor coordination. The female member of the Divine Eye Clan, Sorcerer Sprite Master, grudgingly swung her feet hard at the gate. The gate did not move, but she was forced to retreat 3 steps. She then turned to leave with Shadow Dust Master to search for another passageway. Ahead, Deerbug Master and Luo Feng flew one after the other. Luo Feng said Deerbug Master was indeed very impressive and that he had his respect. Deerbug Master laughed, having transformed back into his original appearance of a balding man, and said forthrightly that he had studied 2 Boats of Mausoleum so far, so it should not be strange that he knew more. He admitted he had roped Luo Feng in for 2 reasons. First, to ensure he had one less enemy, and because Luo Feng was the only one willing to be at his side, and second, to ensure the other side had one more opponent. But now, he said, Luo Feng was kind of useless to him. Luo Feng was taken aback and became vigilant, because since there were no enemies from the outside, the possibility of Deerbug Master turning on him was high, and his opponent's power obviously surpassed his. Deerbug Master, however, was very relaxed and carefree. He said he had roamed Universe Ocean freely for a long time and was definitely not like the lunatics from the first reincarnation era. He explained that the Boat of Mausoleum was very valuable, though still lacking compared to a palace supreme true treasure, but superior to any other pinnacle palace true treasure, and with it one could enter the tomb. It was very valuable, even more valuable than a strange object, extremely close to that of a supreme true treasure. They could go crazy, but he was not about to lose his sanity, because his life was so long and the most exciting part of it was to go on adventures. The most important process of an adventure was to obtain treasures, and it was good enough if one had failed, despite putting in one's best. Failure meant nothing at all. This philosophy reveals the difference between those who have eternity and those who do not. For a being whose race can live on forever, the process matters more than a single outcome, while for those whose time is running out, every failure feels like the end. He then transformed into light and advanced down the meandering passage ahead. Luo Feng ignored him for a moment, thinking that if his race could live on for eternity, then he too could afford to be so free and nonchalant. Deerbug Master suddenly said he had made a good guess, that it was the core room right ahead and the core control should be in there. He looked at Luo Feng and transmitted, "Let's see who is capable enough, you or me, to be able to obtain that core control, to receive the entire inheritance or die." "All right," Luo Feng said no more. He transformed into a beam of light as he continued flying at high speed, and after taking a bend, he stopped before a huge, exquisite door. The colors on the door were an intertwining mix of gold and cyan, and its entirety annotated royalty. It gave off a feeling of being in a superior position far removed from the masses, so that countless living souls would feel apprehension and not dare enter. But Luo Feng and Deer Bug Master's willpower were extremely determined, and they pushed the door open almost at the same time. The big door opened with a rumble, revealing the control room. Upon pushing open the door, they set foot inside a towering and spacious hall that was very beautiful. Within the hall, there were various decorative items on display and ornaments hung on the walls. It looked more like a residence of nobility than a warship's core. The moment Luo Feng entered, he did not hesitate to release a large amount of godly power from his body. He charged about crazily in a random manner and scoured all corners of the vast hall with his eyes, flashing traces of insanity. His logic was simple and was born from lack of experience. He may not recognize which object was the core control, but the Boat of Mausoleum was safe, inside with no traces of destruction from the outside, so he could try to brand the treasures he found with his life. Imprints and get everything verified at once. He thought he did not even need to know which the core control was, because he would try to get all of the items to recognize their master. Luo Feng looked towards Deer Bug Master, who was a short distance away. The moment Deer Bug Master entered the hall, he went around looking for the core control. When he saw Luo Feng scattering his godly power without restraint, he exclaimed, asking what Luo Feng was doing. Luo Feng laughed and asked what did he think he was doing, saying he was not as experienced as Deer Bug Master, so he could only use such a silly method. Deer Bug Master teased and laughed, asking if Luo Feng thought branding with life imprints was the way to get the Boat of Mausoleum to recognize its master, if he thought it was so simple. He revealed that he had not told Luo Feng before that to get it to recognize its master, its core control was the real method. Luo Feng's face changed slightly, understanding that getting a supreme true treasure to recognize its master was complicated, which meant getting the core control of the Boat of Mausoleum to recognize its master would also be quite complicated. This exchange shows the gap between experience and brute force. One relies on systematic knowledge of how supreme treasures work. The other relies on trying everything at once in hopes that quantity will compensate for lack of direction. Deer Bug Master then explained why he had rallied Luo Feng. Besides the two reasons he had mentioned before, the third was that those guys from the first reincarnation era had seen more and were more experienced. And maybe among them, there would be someone who knew the way to get the core control to recognize its master. They were his greatest enemies. He challenged Luo Feng, saying if he had the capability to find the way to get the core control to recognize its master, he would not interfere at all. While he spoke, he was probing around as quickly as he could. Luo Feng whispered to himself that, indeed, Deer Bug Master had a hidden hand, and everything was as he had expected. Since it was so difficult to find, he made a swift decision. The majority of his attention was placed on Deer Bug Master, carefully observing his various reactions and expressions to help decide on his target. When you lack information yourself, watching the most knowledgeable person becomes the best source of information. Deer Bug Master's expression was one of jest as he searched around for the core control in a leisurely manner. Very soon, everything within that control room of the vast hall was searched, which caused his expression to change slightly. Again, he searched through every object in the entire hall more meticulously, and his expression changed drastically. He said, "How was this possible? How could there be nothing at all? How could the core control not be in the control room?" He glowered with rage, as if the various plans he had made had all fallen through and he found it unbearable. After all, the worth of the Boat of Mausoleum was close to that of a supreme true treasure. Solely the fact that it was indestructible had made it second only to a palace supreme true treasure. Plus it could enter the tomb. Even Deer Bug Master only had one treasure more superior than the Boat of Mausoleum after countless years, his deer bug godly armor. Seeing how close he was to seizing the Boat of Mausoleum, only to see it slip through his fingers, he could not take it lying down. Luo Feng laughed gently and said he was afraid Deer Bug Master may have miscalculated, that this core control may not be in the control room. Deerbug Master grunted coldly, asking what Luo Feng knew. He explained that the control room was where the master of the Boat of Mausoleum resided, that the great ancient civilization was strict with respect to its hierarchical system, with the control room being where its master resided. The master was of incomparable nobility, and no other great beings would dare intrude. From the door they saw earlier to the core control, both had always been placed in the control room. This was the usual practice. Luo Feng shook his head and laughed, asking how many boats of Mausoleum Deerbug Master had encountered so far to call it usual practice. This highlights a flaw in relying solely on past experience. What is usual in two cases may not be the rule for all. Suddenly, Luo Feng's expression changed slightly, and he turned to look behind, him at the doorway a distance away. Deerbug Master also turned around to look. 4 streaks of light charged through the door almost simultaneously. Deerbug Master's expression changed. Jittery Sea Master of the Skeleton Clan laughed with mockery, asking if Deerbug Master was trying to stop them, saying this was a gigantic vessel after all, with many ways to get about and more than one route leading to the control room. Sorcerer Sprite Master said by the looks of it. Deerbug Master had yet to obtain the core control. Shadow Dust Master urged to hurry and look for it, while Liu Ju Master did not utter a single word and moved quickly to search. Sorcerer Sprite Master grunted, and with a sudden wave of his arm, an immeasurable amount of golden blood splashed out in mid-air and divided into countless golden drops before falling over every single item in the hall. Deerbug Master snorted and said the divine I-Clan was indeed worthy of their name to be aware of such a verification method. This scattering of blood droplets was a way of verifying the core control, and once verified, the next step would be to get it to recognize its master, which was more complicated. But with a change of expression, Sorcerer Sprite Master asked, how come there wasn't anything there? Shadow Dust Master looked shocked and said there was no core control, and asked how that was possible. Jittery Sea Master of the Skeleton Clan said with eyes burning with wild flames that perhaps Deerbug Master had already seized it. Deerbug Master jeered, asking if he had it. Would he still be standing there like a fool? The Divine Eye Clan was known to be the top power of the Third Reincarnation era. When compared to the 2 Holy Land universes, they were an extremely close match. On the level of Universe Masters, they were weaker. But on the level of Universe Supreme Masters, they were more powerful than the 2 Holy Land universes. For close to 3 reincarnation eras, the amount of information the clan had gathered was plentiful, which is why they were very well informed. Yet even their verification method found nothing. Now there were 6 great beings scattered around in that spacious hall, all in a state of utter confusion. Because there was no core control, then an intangible force suddenly befell them. Deerbug Master, Luo Feng, Shadow Dust Master, Sorcerer Sprite Master, Jittery Sea Master, and Liu Ju Master all turned to look forward at the hall. Above the one containing the control room, there was an ancient throne, and at that moment, the intangible force gathered on that throne to gradually give rise to a vague figure that finally came into clear view. The figure looked no different from any ordinary human form man. 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 1 mouth. 2 arms, 2 legs, black eyes, and yellow skin. Its hair was completely cyan. He resembled an ordinary clansman from Purple Moon Holy Land, and there was not a trace of oppression from him, which made Luo Feng and company look at him in shock. The cyan-haired human man seated high on the throne was wearing simple armor that had streaks of floral patterns. At first glance, the armor was like an endless rolling river with surging waves. He looked down with eyes staring coldly. Then he introduced himself. My name is Duan Dong River Wu. This sent shudders coursing through Luo Feng and the other 5 great beings. Shadow Dust Master said solemnly that Wu was an extremely respectable title in that ancient civilization, and if a name carried a Wu character after it, that person must be someone extraordinary. Deerbug Master jested and threw a look at Shadow Dust Master, saying he did know some stuff. But with that little bit of knowledge, it was better to keep his peace. Because if great beings from that ancient civilization came to know of it, he would become the joke of the town. The cyan-haired human man high on his throne did not seem to be aware of the situation below as he continued to say with indifference that descendants from endless reincarnation eras later When they finally met him, he would have been annihilated for an unknown number of reincarnation eras. Previously, when he embarked on this final adventure with his general, he already knew that chances of survival were slim. Indeed, this path was the most difficult one, even for the greatest ship or the bravest and strongest great beings. Whatever or whoever was treading upon it would be bound to fail. Now that he knew he was expected to fail, he did not wish to put an end to his inheritance. He, Duan Dong River Wu, was the 192nd master of Duan Dong River and the sole heir. Generations of ancestors dying one after another in battles. When it was his turn, the inheritances had accumulated for so long that he lost count. If he died, the inheritance would be cut off with him. He had let the generations of ancestors down. He had remodeled this Boat of Mausoleum. It was different from the others. Within it, there were more dangerous lands and lands of inheritances. He continued saying he could die, but generations of inheritances of Duan Dong River could not die off. If they were feeling afraid now, they might leave. Otherwise, the moment they set foot upon this path, the dangers in their way would only intensify, especially toward the end when they came into contact with the one true inheritance from his Duan Dong River. Only the one receiving the inheritance might survive, or if none of them were able to receive the inheritance, then all of them would be annihilated. The earlier they left, the safer they were. The later they left, especially when they came into contact with just a mere bit of inheritance. Non-descendants from the generations of Duan Dong River who tried to covet after their line of inheritance must die. He told them to make their choice, descendants. The voice dispersed and the figure on the throne vanished. At one point in time, there was an oppressive energy over the entire hall. All 6 pairs of eyes contained craziness or excitement or worry. There was a wide array of emotions. The reason for such emotion was the word inheritance. Why were the 7 true masters of Divine Eye Clan so powerful? Because the Divine Eye Clan once found a complete series of inheritance among monuments, allowing the 7 great true masters to be able to unleash an unbelievably strong power the moment they joined forces. That was why among the universe ocean, the most precious inheritance would be a complete series where cultivation could start from a low to a high level. But this inheritance, it was an inheritance from a pulse on Duan Dong River. From the sound of it, this pulse was probably one that ran rampant, one from the great ancient civilization that was extremely strong and dominating. Every pulse only had one heir, with a name that contained the Wu character. To remodel an entire Boat of Mausoleum, given his speaking tone and manner, and even to have followed his general out on a venture, this so-called general must have been a general from the universe boat. His status had to be extremely high. Obviously, this inheritance from the pulse on the Duan Dong River was very precious. Even if Duan Dong River wanted to die alone, the inheritance must be left behind. An endless and long-standing ancient inheritance. Earlier generations, probably much stronger than the current generation of Duan Dong River, which meant this inheritance should not be judged based on the capability of Duan Dong River Wu. There was probably something more profound about it. Regardless, the conclusion boiled down to one point. The inheritance of that pulse on Duan Dong River was a most precious inheritance. However, the moment one was to tread upon this path, the result might be frightening. Once one touched an inch of that inheritance, the choice to leave would no longer exist. Duan Dong River, Wu's voice seemed to vaguely resonate within the main hall of the control room, which made the silence within the hall even more apparent. Dear Bug Master, Liujiu Master, Shadow Dust Master, Sorcerer Sprite Master, Jittery Sea Master, and Luo Feng were all going crazy, and their eyes were filled with agony as they struggled. Dear Bug Master was in a dilemma amidst his struggles. He was from the Holy Land universe, an eternal being eternally free from annihilation. To go meant risking that eternity, but not to go meant forgoing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His dilemma shows the unique burden of an eternal being. When you cannot die naturally, choosing a path that can kill you is the hardest choice of all. Shadow Dust Master squinted his eyes, and the single-eyed shadow behind him was flashing and flickering with extremely strong ripples of uncertainty. He was calculating the scale of the ancient civilization that could create the universe boat, where items like the black striped stone pillars were only one of many items, an inheritance that even within that, civilization was one of a kind, must be unimaginably valuable. and the difficulty of obtaining it would naturally match that value. Jittery Seamaster's eyes were filled with insanity. Seeing this as the one and only chance bestowed upon him, Luo Master's perfect face registered traces of hesitation. All who were present were in turmoil. The same was true for Luo Feng, whose entire body seemed to be going out of control as his godly power raged and surged, producing waves in his surroundings. He had thought the fight was for the Boat of Mausoleum, but the boat was only a supplementary item. The more prominent part was that it contained the extremely powerful inheritance of the ancient civilization, an object of great desire that also entailed the risk of annihilation. He was aware that he might have another body, but given the means of an ancient civilization that dared to declare that those who covet, after their line of inheritance, must die, its punishment would surely not deal solely with one body. He considered whether to go or not. He had gone through merely a dozen or more eras of cultivation, and even without this opportunity, he believed he could become a universe master easily. There was still hope. But accepting this inheritance meant volunteering for a perilous adventure. He was caught between a safe, guaranteed future and a dangerous, limitless one. He understood he only had confidence that he could become a universe master, but was clueless about how. Even if he did become one, at most he could live for 3 reincarnation eras. For true immortality, he must achieve a successful breakthrough of a reincarnation era, and throughout Universe Ocean for countless eras, only 2 Holy Land universes had ever succeeded. He recalled the individual space within the chamber of the Black Token, where a smooth and shiny stone wall was filled with information left behind by generations of masters, from 9 Mortal Master to 5 Chaos Master, and then to Luo Feng, a total of 20,295 Space Masters, with an unknown number before that. Endless reincarnation eras had passed with countless gifted talents. Yet only 2 Holy Land universes were born, with a few dozen Universe Supreme Masters emerging every era, and none achieving eternity. Raising his head to look at the throne, his gaze was ablaze. He saw this as the chance of a lifetime. That highly arrogant ancient civilization must have an extremely powerful inheritance. And Duan Dong River Wu must be ranked at the top within the universe boat. So this chance must be very valuable even within that civilization. With this inheritance, he would see a path much further ahead, higher than that of Universe Supreme Masters, and with its guidance he could achieve greater things. In that great hall, every one of them struggled with their own trains of thought. Suddenly a foreign aura appeared. Sorcerer Sprite Master coldly permitted her hidden companion to emerge, making it clear that the final choice would be his own. A man in golden armor from the Divine Eye clan appeared beside her. This was Golden Square Master, who had been hiding within the palace treasure while clearly seeing and hearing everything that had happened. Another figure appeared, a strange, lofty figure covered in dark red, seemingly composed entirely of blood-red bones, a great being from the skeleton clan. As the factions prepared to enter, the dynamics of the inner region became clear. Jittery Seamaster warned his companion about the life-and-death stakes without forcing a decision, respecting his autonomy. Luo Master then revealed her own companion with a gentle wave, a burly giant with 8 arms whose body seemed made entirely of stones. His loyalty went beyond self-interest, as he anchored his fate entirely to Luo Master, demonstrating that he would go only if she went. Sorcerer Sprite Master noted the well-known pairing of the two. This moment reveals the common practice within the deep region of the internal domain. Unless one was extremely confident like Deerbug Master, great beings normally acted in pairs to survive, which explained the partnerships of the Skeleton Clan, the Divine Eye Clan, and the First Ancestral God School. Golden Square Master's presence was merely coincidental to the fight. As the groups took a tally of their numbers, it became obvious that almost everyone relied on a partner to survive the deep region. Out of the 9 competitors present, only Deerbug Master, who had always roamed Universe Ocean alone, and Luo Feng operated completely alone. This left a total of 9 individuals, 3 from the Divine Eye Clan, 2 from the Skeleton Clan, 2 from the First Ancestral God School, plus Milky Way and Deerbug Master. Deerbug Master laughed and pointed out that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, one he had never heard of even within his Purple Moon Holy Land. There were some ordinary, inheritances left by normal great beings. But they were not on the same scale as Duan Dong River Wu's inheritance. And the little dangers those normal beings left behind were not major enough to threaten him. But Duan Dong River Wu dared to utter such absolute words, so even annihilated, the methods he left behind would be powerful enough to deal with Universe Supreme Masters. He urged everyone to be thorough when considering options. Just as everyone was going through an internal struggle, on the throne where all energy seemed to converge, the cyan-haired figure took form again. He asked if they had made up their minds after careful consideration, then stood up and slowly walked down while keeping his eyes on the 9 figures below. Luo Feng and the others were aware this was merely a figure left behind and controlled by something like an intelligence, as the actual Duan Dong River had already been annihilated. He pointed to the ground and ordered the hall to rise. The hall lifted instantly, and a large circular stone tile rose up to reveal a deep hole. One glance into it revealed a sea of dark red with occasional contorted red airwaves. He explained that if they were willing to receive that inheritance, they might go down, and he would choose the heir to his pulse, according to their own methods. What lay in store would be various tests they had to pass, gradually bringing them into contact with the inheritance. The moment they started getting in contact with it, their path would be fraught with life and death dangers. If they succeeded in accepting all the inheritance, they survived. If they were unable to receive the full inheritance but merely received traces of it, then they must die. He added that if they were having cold feet, they could leave right away. The gate would not shut after it had opened. They could even invite their fellow clanspeople and friends to try their luck, because the more potential intruders, the better the possibility of finding the next Duan Dong River. After finishing, his form seemed to become nothing but dust and disintegrated to nothingness. The circular stone tiles floated up, revealing an endless dark red passageway, and the question of whether to go in or not hung in the air. A stream of dark red light flashed and disappeared, upon creating a winding line in the air, then flew right into the deep dark passageway. This was Red Hawk Master, driven by the desperation of the first reincarnation era. For them, doomsday was near. Yet this was an opportunity that might allow one to become a universe supreme and break through a reincarnation era. Even the ancient civilization was unable to break through the restrictions. But once he got hold of that inheritance, it could guide the universe masters of his skeleton clan to witness the birth of a third Holy Land universe. For those already facing annihilation, any risk is worth taking. Liu Zhou Master smiled and transformed into a stream of light to make her way in, followed without hesitation by Rock Giant Master, whose loyalty was absolute. Shadow Dust and Sorcerer Sprite, husband and wife, looked into one another's eyes and smiled, then went in together. Golden Square Master let out a hearty laugh at the idea that he would have to die anyway, just a moment earlier, and went in as well. In a moment, all the great beings from the first reincarnation era had entered. Only Deerbug Master and Luo Feng remained. With the first reincarnation era experts already inside, only Deerbug Master and Luo Feng remained. After a brief exchange confirming their mutual intent to proceed, Deerbug Master highlighted the ultimate privilege of his eternal lifespan. He viewed eternity itself as insufficient without passion, explaining that his clan would not be affected if he was gone because the Holy Land, universe itself, was eternal. Throughout this endless era, this was an inheritance hard to come by, and missing it would bring regret. This risk might be the biggest he ever took, but even if he died in the process, he would find it a worthy death. Then he transformed into light and flew right in. In the entire Great Hall, only Luo Feng remained. He considered that if he were annihilated, being a universe knight, he still had a chance of resurrection, and while the price might be big, he could afford it. Initially, he wanted his golden horned beast body to take Star Tower and leave, but if he was annihilated, Star Tower would become an item without a master and would drift about the universe boat, ending up in dangerous lands or being snatched away. If that was the case, he would take Star Tower with him and try his luck. With Star Tower, he had more confidence in dealing with dangers. He would put in his everything and take a gamble. And if he succeeded, his human race could live on for eternity. He transformed into a streak of light and charged into that dark red abyss, without further hesitation. Flying through the crimson waves, one could feel how distorted time and space were. There was a feeling of flying through the universe tunnel, There was a flash of light. Before him was a hall faintly enshrouded by a light white mist. The material of the hall was the same as that of the passageway of the Boat of Mausoleum, and the various materials within the cabins were all suffused with a deep gray. Inside the hall there were Deerbug Master, Shadow Dust Master, Jittery Sea Master, Liu Jiu Master, and another 4 universe masters. All 8 of them turned over to look. Luo Feng flew over right away. Deerbug Master laughed at his arrival, noting how short. Luo Feng's cultivation period of only a dozen eras was compared to the others. Shadow Dust Master then took a kind approach, suggesting that with Doomsday still 2 reincarnation eras away for the primal universe, Luo Feng had an extremely long life ahead and no need to fight it out with them. He implied that a full retreat was still possible. This was not kindness, but a strategic attempt to remove the most talented competitor. Luo Feng casually dismissed the suggestion, stating that since he had come, he would not back away. This shows a firmness of willpower that is necessary for any inheritance trial. Jittery Sea Master shot Luo Feng a hostile look and dismissed his presence as courting death. Redlark Master of the Skeleton Clan echoed that hostility. The Skeleton Clan was originally a crazy and cold race, only united among their own kind, treating the rest of the world with enmity. For Luo Feng, who had such high achievement despite cultivating for only a dozen eras, there was an additional trace of jealousy. In truth, out of everyone present, Shadow Dust Master, Sorcerer Sprite Master, and Red Lark Master were the ones who hated Luo Feng the most after choosing to take the risk. They were well aware that the selection of an heir normally places much emphasis on improvement speed and comprehension level. One had cultivated for a dozen eras and another for close to 3 reincarnation eras. Yet their achievements were comparable. The logical choice for Duan Dong River would be obvious. Their only hope was that the methods left behind could not determine how long a being had lived. But they felt Duan Dong River was too unfathomable, leaving them full of uncertainty. Their deepest wish was for Luo Feng to back out as early as possible. When all 9 of them, including Luo Feng, had gathered in that misty hall and were engaged in a heated exchange of sarcastic remarks, an intangible energy suddenly started to gather by their side, eventually giving form to a figure. This was the green-haired man, Duan Dong River. He swept his gaze across the 9 great beings and announced that all 9 had arrived, and that they would begin with the first round of selection. Deerbug Master, Shadow Dust Master, and Luo Feng all felt knots within their chests, with no one daring to claim they could pass. Duan Dong River pointed at a spot far on the ground of the hall and ordered it to rise. The ground suddenly split in half, and a strange machine gradually emerged from beneath. It was entirely dark red in color, its surface covered with many secret engravings of various laws so mystical that they made every great being present dizzy from lack of understanding. A crack appeared on the magicube instrument to reveal a door. He ordered them to go in one at a time as selection would be done individually. The 9 great beings looked at one another, questioning who should go first. The strange and unpredictable magicube instrument looked quite dangerous, and not a single being was willing to be the first to enter. Duan Dong River pointed directly at Deerbug Master, making the choice for them. The other universe masters, from the first reincarnation, era relaxed instantly and even started jesting, claiming this was merely the start, and that Deerbug Master would succeed for sure, questioning how it could be difficult for him. Deerbug Master merely smiled without a word, walked toward the instrument and stepped inside. Soon a cracking sound was heard as the doors shut. The secret engravings on the surface lit up in bouts of strong energy. Waves churned inside, the entire instrument turning from dark red to a dazzling, incandescent white. Luo Feng grew tense, wondering what was being selected as everything was unknown. From inside, Deerbug Master made no sound. Or perhaps his shouting was blocked, because nothing could enter the instrument, leaving those outside feeling anxious. A moment later, the door opened and Deerbug Master walked out. Doubt was written all over his face, an expression the other 8 universe masters did not understand, suggesting something unexpected had happened inside. Duan Dong River took one look and declared the first round qualified. Instantly, Deerbug Master's face showed delight. The 2 females present, Liu Jiu Master and Sorcerer Sprite Master, asked what was inside the instrument and offered congratulations. Deerbug Master, curtly told them to go in and find out for themselves and stood by the side to relax. Having made it through, Duan Dong River's gaze swept through the remaining 8 and called for the next. Jittery Seamaster volunteered, his eyes flashing a murderous glint as he took a big step forward. Seeing a volunteer, Duan Dong River simply watched in silence. Jittery Seamaster walked to the door, hesitated for a split moment, then stepped inside. The door shut and the secret engravings lit up again. Luo Feng and company waited in silence, questioning what was going on inside. After a short moment, the door opened and Jittery Seamaster walked out with an expression full of doubt. Duan Dong River looked toward him with a tinge of harshness and coldly declared him disqualified. This caused the other great beings to feel a sudden tremble in their hearts. Jittery Seamaster grew anxious and blurted out his confusion, arguing that he had lived through almost 3 reincarnation eras and that Deerbug Master had only lived longer and owned a supreme true treasure, making him only a little stronger. Questioning why he was disqualified, this was the one chance for the skeleton clan and he was reluctant to give it up. Duan Dong River shouted for him to shut his mouth and called for the next participant. The failure of the only volunteer made the remaining 7 so cautious that none dared volunteer themselves, so Duan Dong River pointed at Liu Master to decide the order himself. The results followed quickly. Liu Master qualified. Rock Giant Master was disqualified. Shadow Dust Master qualified. Sorcerer Sprite Master qualified. Golden Square Master qualified. Red Lark Master was disqualified. Finally, Duan Dong River pointed towards Luo Feng. Whether the order was intentional or not, no one knew, because after Jittery Seamaster's failed attempt, the rest of the turns were all decided by Duan Dong River's pointing. Luo Feng held his breath and walked toward the instrument, passing the doorway to enter. Inside the instrument was an individual, void space where Luo Feng was suspended, with no exit at all. Streaks of distorted secret engravings started appearing. Dazzling white engravings distributed all over the void as bouts of strange and unpredictable energy appeared. Instantaneously, this energy tried to penetrate him, even though he had Star Tower to guard his soul and crazy demon extermination. Godly armor to protect his body, they were not useful. This strange and unpredictable energy penetrated his godly body, and at that moment Luo Feng felt as though all his secrets were revealed. The invisible strange power continued to penetrate within his body, penetrating every inch of godly power and eventually merging with him to become a complete whole. A short moment later, the distorted secret engraving started to dissipate and the strange energy completely disappeared. A door appeared before him in that void space. Luo Feng took a step and passed the doorway to enter the hall outside, still filled with doubts about what had happened inside. There were slight changes in the expressions of Deerbug Master, Shadow Dust Master, Sorcerer Sprite Master, and a few others who had passed earlier, because this was the first time Duan Dong River Wu had smiled since the very beginning. The various great beings judged this change as not right, because this Duan Dong River must be of a very cold character, and this shadow he left behind must have been compatible with his character. Duan Dong River pointed toward Jittery Seamaster, Red Lark Master, and Rock Giant Master, ordering the 3 of them to quickly take their leave, warning that if they did not leave now, they might be annihilated on their way. Jittery Seamaster and Red Lark Master looked at one another with great reluctance, realizing all of the skeleton clan had been eliminated. Rock Giant Master, a rock-type special life form, looked at Liu Master and expressed that he would no longer be able to protect her and told her to take great care. Jittery Seamaster could not hold back and asked to be told why they did not pass. Duan Dong River answered with hostility, stating that they were not from his clan yet wished to inherit something from a pulse on his Duan Dong River, telling them it was a dream and to get lost. This mention of clan greatly shocked Luo Feng, Deerbug Master, and the others. Strictly speaking, the 6 great beings who had passed were not from the same clan, or even fully beings of the flesh and blood type. For instance, Liu Master was a plant life form, yet she had still passed. Jittery Seamaster and Red Lark Master trembled upon hearing this reason, realizing big trouble. If they failed for this reason, then even if other great beings from Skeleton Clan came, they would fail just the same. Duan Dong River's eyes brimmed with coldness and ordered them to leave. Jittery Seamaster and Red Lark Master gritted their teeth, transformed into light streams and dashed out. Giant Rock Master, after bidding farewell with a most unwilling heart, also dashed out and flew into the crimson-red streaks of light. Coursing along the crimson-red streaks with distorted time and space, the three quickly arrived at the control room hall they were at previously. Jittery Seamaster lowered his head to look at the deep crimson passageway and said through gritted teeth that if that was the reason, it meant no one from Skeleton Clan would be able to succeed. Red Lark Master said with a voice dripping with hatred that if that was the case, the Skeleton Clan would not be able to succeed at all, suggesting they spread the news to let various groups of powers know and let a large number of great beings make their way there. What the Skeleton Clan could not achieve, they would not let the Divine Eye Clan achieve easily. After all, out of the 6 who qualified, 3 were from the Divine Eye Clan, and the Skeleton Clan could not look on while they succeeded. Within the Misty Hall, Duan Dong River looked at the remaining 6 and clarified his selection logic. If they were not from his clan, naturally they did not qualify for the inheritance. However, he explained this was merely the simplest round of selection, and also the only safe round. What came next would involve life and death dangers, and if they were afraid, they could still choose to retreat now.